Well, it's the middle of September, and these water temps have dropped into the mid-60s. Unlike throughout the month of August, high 70s, low 80s. But what I'm doing is I'm concentrating on this big weed flat. You know, all summer long we've been picking up fish on slip bobbers, just plain fixed rocket bobbers, everything with plastics pretty much. Anywhere from a 64th ounce jig and a finesse plastic to a 16th ounce jig and a 2-inch power tail with the slip bobber rig. Well, now what I'm doing is I was out throwing a slip bobber earlier here, and these fish are really aggressive. I mean, they're hitting on the drop. As soon as that bait hits the water and that bobber or that bait's starting to drop, you see the bobber popping already. Well, these fish are aggressive. So what I've done is I've taken my bobber stop and I just slid it right down to my jig. So I'm never going to use a bobber. And I'm using my 16th ounce jig, and then I'm using this 2-inch power tail, this 2-inch Berkley power tail. Now the thing about this is, I'm just going to run this plastic, this power tail, right onto my jig like this. And what I want to do is I want to have the tail down. So in other words, just like that. So that tail is down. I tend to get a little bit better action out of it. And now with these fish being so aggressive, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cast out and kind of let that bait drop, but I'm going to be ready. I mean, they're popping, popping, popping. So what I'm going to do is just let it drop a little bit like this, and then once I get to the weed tips, I'm just going to kind of go like this and just kind of pop it and work it right above them weeds. Just bounce it right off them weeds. Rip them off the weeds, and a lot of times you're going to get a fish. Now, earlier, there he is. Earlier this week, we did some diving. And, oh, it's a nice crappie. Not a bad crappie. We did some diving earlier this week, just to give you a better idea what's going on. You know, even though we're in the fall, there he is. Came off there. Nice little crappie. Even though it's, you know, we're into September right now, these weeds are still green. And with these weeds being green, there was just schools and schools of minnows everywhere. And that's what brings these fish and holds these fish on these big weed flats. And obviously when you get the like the panfish, the bluegills, the crappies, you know, the bass will start moving in, you know, different predator fish will come in. And at the same time, we actually even seen a muskie cruising, you know, on the deep weed line there. It was just kind of out there suspended with a lot of the panfish. But the key is that the weeds are still green, and with the weeds still being green, you can fish these all the way until late fall. Because what happens is, you know, as the water temps cool down and you don't get as much sunlight, those shallower weeds are going to die off. But these deeper weeds, they still stay green. So you guys, you know, you can continue to fish, you know, continue to fish these deep weed lines until, I mean, late into the fall, into typically mid-October, you know, and you're still able to find these fish. Eventually what's going to happen is those are all going to die out, and then these fish will just suspend, or what they'll do is they'll, you know, if you know where a crib is, like a brush pile or a deep crib or anything, oh wow, you see that crappie come right after it? Let's see if I can jig him up. There he is right there. Look at him. Oh. Can you believe that? These crappies are just thick in here. Let's see if I can jig them back up. Oh my gosh, he went after it again. Come on, Mr. Crappie. They are aggressive right now. Boy, I see him right there. Boy, there's a ton of bluegills down there too. Anyway, you know, as these weeds die out, then what you can do is you can concentrate on any type of points, deep points, or rock humps. A lot of times do really well, or deep cribs. And now we happened to find when we were diving, we found two cribs. They were probably in about 16 feet of water. There was some weeds around them, and they were just stacked full of, there he is, stacked full of rock bass, and there was a couple of little crappies on it, and I think a bluegill or two, if I remember right. But a lot of bass. Boy, this is just a little guy. Boy, these things are just, there's tons of them in here right now. These fish are really aggressive. But anyway, as long as these weeds are green, you know, you can keep going out and doing this. It's just a great way to get a meal of fish.